Coming up today, the IMF slashes Korea's growth outlook for this year to 2.7%, citing slumping exports. The outlook for the global economy is also cut. South Korea and the United States urge North Korea to take a leaf out of Iran's book and abandon its nuclear weapons program. Plus, NATO rejects Russia's claims that its recent incursions into Turkish airspace were a mistake and says Moscow is sending more ground troops to Syria. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Wednesday, October 7th here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story this morning. The International Monetary Fund has once again cut South Korea's economic growth outlook for this year. The agency lowered the country's outlook to 2.7%, down 0.4 percentage points from a forecast made in May. This is the third time the IMF has downgraded Korea's growth outlook since October last year, when it forecast 4% growth for 2015. Tumbling exports and sluggish domestic spending are partly to blame for the latest downward revision. The IMF also says sliding commodity prices and China's slowdown will mean the global economic growth this year will slip to the lowest level since the 2009 recession. It predicts growth of 3.1% this year, down from its earlier estimate of 3.3% made in July. The forecast for the United States rose 0.1 percentage points to 2.6%. An international trade deal covering 40% of the world's economy was reached this week, but Korea is not a part of it, having decided not to be one of the founding members of the so-called Trans-Pacific Partnership. But as some fear being left out of the TPP will erode the competitiveness of local manufacturers against their Japanese rivals, Korea says it now wants in. Shin Se-min reports.
The Korean government says it may join the Trans-Pacific Partnership soon, following the deal reached Monday. Korea's finance minister Choi Kyung-hwan said Seoul is in the midst of reviewing the possibility of joining the regional bloc that could become the world's single largest trading unit. But for now, Korea is not one of the 5 countries that are among the top 10 trading nations to have joined the TPP. And Korean exporters will have to bear the brunt of Korea's decision to not join the pact by losing competitiveness. Once the trade pact goes into effect, over 80% of the Japanese auto parts entering the U.S. market will see a large portion of existing tariffs lifted. Cheaper Japanese auto parts could give U.S. automobiles a leg up in the competition as well.
U.S. cars made with Japanese auto parts will see their prices drop, thereby becoming more competitive. Korean automobiles will be jammed between cheaper cars.
Aside from that, Korean firms involved in the oil, chemicals, and construction sectors could also be at a disadvantage. The Korea Institute for International Economic Policy predicts the country's annual trade balance will increase by up to $300 million and a production effect worth over $800 million should Korea join the TPP. But experts say the Korean government should weigh its options thoroughly, as the country already has trade pacts with 10 of the 12 TPP countries, with a number of other bilateral trade deals still pending.
Even if Korea decides to join the TPP, it can only participate so much, being a latecomer. So a thorough examination of current and future trade deals is crucial.
Experts say that being part of the regional bloc will ultimately be advantageous, helping Korea not only economically, but diplomatically, as a number of world powers are already part of the deal. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, staying with TPP-related news, and Seoul's Trade, Industry and Energy Minister says the Trans-Pacific Partnership will not negatively affect bilateral free trade deals Korea has reached with other countries. Speaking at an audit session of the National Assembly on Tuesday, Yoon Sang-jik said the TPP deal is no reason to write off the achievements Korea has made through FTAs. Yoon brushed off concerns that the TPP could render the earlier FTAs reached between Korea and countries like Canada and Australia obsolete, saying the bilateral agreements can deal with much more sensitive areas than the TPP. South Korea welcomed two high-profile visitors from overseas on Tuesday. The U.S. Deputy Secretary of State dropped by Seoul's foreign ministry for talks on President Park Geun-hye's upcoming trip to Washington. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency was also in town. Song Ji-sun has the details.
Seoul and Washington are looking to build up their alliance towards what they're calling a new frontier. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Tony Blinken sat down with South Korean Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se on Tuesday to go over the agenda for President Park Geun-hye's upcoming summit with President Barack Obama and to reinforce cooperation against a possible rocket launch by the North.
With the latest threats coming from Pyongyang, we've reaffirmed our alliance and readiness, which is stronger than ever. We realize the importance of preventive diplomacy to rein in North Korea from taking such action. But if it carries out a provocation, we'll jointly counter the situation in a very stern and firm manner.
Citing Iran as an example of how the U.S. is willing to negotiate, Blinken encouraged Pyongyang to give up its nuclear ambitions and to return to the six-party talks.
And we are united with the United States and South Korea, but also, I believe, with Japan. We've had conversations with Russia and with China, and all feel strongly that not only should North Korea not take this step, but it must return to meaningful efforts at denuclearization.
But Pyongyang may not be so close to compromising its nuclear ambitions. Visiting Seoul for talks with Foreign Minister Yoon, IAEA Chief Yukiya Amano told reporters that the agency detected suspect activities at North Korean nuclear facilities.
We have observed the activities at Yongbyon that coincide with the North Korean declaration to expand their activities. We have observed discharge of waters or transportation of equipment to the facility, and some indications of operation of the 5-megawatt reactors. But as we do not have the inspectors on the ground, we cannot say for sure.
Amano added that not being able to have IAEA inspectors on the ground in the north is a major concern for a nuclear watchdog as it tries to verify any possible activities. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Now, stores across Korea are bustling with shoppers taking advantage of the Korea Grand Sale, which has also been dubbed the country's Black Friday. Now, the country's biggest department stores are expanding their discounts with additional reductions that will cut prices by up to 90%. Starting Thursday, Lotte department store will slash prices on products ranging from household goods to high-end fashion brands. Shinsegae and Hyundai department stores will also give extra discounts. Now, demand for renewable energy is on the rise worldwide, and with growing concerns over energy security and climate change, the industry is on the up and up around the world and also in Korea. Kwon-sua reports.
What appears to be an ordinary convenience store at first glance is fully equipped with eco-friendly devices. Solar panels on the roof, the #1 source of renewable energy in Korea, and a system that ensures that energy is distributed evenly, whether to the refrigerators, the air conditioner, or the LED lights.
Solar energy is absorbed throughout the day to keep the convenience store running at night. And leftover energy is stored in this energy storage system for later use. This way, up to 30% of the energy can be saved.
That system, along with another one that helps monitor how much energy is consumed and when and how it's used, lets the store cut its carbon footprint by 30% and reduce its electricity fees by 23%.
Convenience stores are open 24 hours. The signs outside, the lights inside are on all the time. That's why we wanted a way to cut energy waste.
Microgrid technology, a convergence of renewables and IT, makes it possible for buildings to produce, use, and save energy as they wish.
With ideas like these, Korea is following the global trend toward boosting its use of renewable energy. Last year, global renewable energy consumption levels rose to more than 20% for the first time ever. Investment in the sector jumped last year too. Korea, however, doesn't contribute much to that, as it's at the very bottom of the OECD when it comes to renewable energy production.
The number of renewable energy plants in Korea is growing rapidly, and there will be tangible growth in the amount of renewable energy use between 2020 and 2025.
And that should help Korea reach its target of reducing its greenhouse gas emissions by 37% by 2030. Kwon-soa, Arirang News.
Turning now to the escalating tension over Russia's bombing raids on Syria, and particularly its incursions into Turkish airspace. The head of Nato has dismissed the Russian claim that it was all a mistake, saying there were 2 incursions and they both lasted longer than a few seconds. Jens Stoltenberg also says Nato has been receiving reports of a substantial Russian military buildup in Syria, including ground troops and ships in the eastern Mediterranean. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan spelled out the risks to Russia if it carried on making incursions into Turkey's airspace. He said Moscow must know that it will lose a friend with whom it had a lot of cooperation if it continues as it has. Meanwhile, a US official says Russia has agreed to resume talks with the United States aimed at setting rules for air-to-air conduct over Syria. No dates for the talks have yet been set. Now, scientists from Japan and Canada have won this year's Nobel Prize for Physics. The Nobel Committee for Physics says the scientists' works is expected to change the way we view the universe.
The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences has decided to award the 2015 Nobel Prize in Physics to Takaaki Kajita and Arthur B. MacDonald for the discovery of neutrino oscillations, which shows that neutrinos have mass.
Now, Kajita and MacDonald's research is seen as groundbreaking for particle physics, as the true nature of neutrinos has been poorly understood until now. Neutrinos are the second most abundant particles after photons, and trillions of them stream through our bodies every second. A Korean professor has been elected as the new chairman of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Lee Hwae-sung is a professor in economics of climate change, energy and sustainable development at Korea University. He defeated 5 other nominees in a one-country, one-vote election. He replaces Rajendra Pachauri, who resigned earlier this year. The IPCC is the UN body tasked with assessing climate science. It was first established in 1988. Representatives from Korea and 4 developing countries are holding a seminar on gender equality right here in Seoul. The event follows a pledge by President Park Geun-hye last month to expand health and education aid for girls in developing countries. Lee Soo-eun has this report.
Last month at the UN General Assembly, President Park Geun-hye promised $200 million of official development assistance toward efforts to empower women and girls in developing countries. The pledge is part of the president's plan to export Korea's know-how on economic and social development, in line with the UN's Millennium Development Goals. And here in Seoul, a workshop to share Korea's own experiences with improving gender equality is taking place, with the objective of strengthening gender policy infrastructure of the 4 participating Asia-Pacific nations. The visiting representatives from Cambodia, Indonesia, Myanmar, and Vietnam are hoping to return home after this 3-day seminar with new strategies. The event, hosted by the Korean Women's Development Institute, will focus on Korea's history with gender equality, its current policies, and the obstacles to women's empowerment.
It is not like just one-way giving, but just interaction between the Korea and the 4 our partner countries. So like a mutual learning and mutual sharing, mutual cooperation.
Korean women now enjoy more opportunities than ever, but women's rights in Korea still have a long way to go. And ironically, it's for that reason that Korea can serve as a model for developing countries as they too move toward gender equality. Lee Soo-in, Arirang News.
Well, those are stories we've been following on this Wednesday morning here in Seoul. Have a great day. Goodbye.